Recently, Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg stirred some controversy when he suggested that Facebook communities can play a role similar to the church. Zuckerberg was speaking to people who have formed large Facebook communities that support and inspire its members. To be clear, Zuckerberg never said Facebook could or should replace the church, but he noted that people are leaving traditional communities like churches, and he said Facebook can provide the connection and the support they're seeking. We've invited Dr. Corne Bekker, Dean of the Regent School of Divinity, to talk a little bit about this. Dr. Bekker, what's your take on the idea that Facebook, or really any community, can fill the role of the church?
Laurie, thank you so much. What a great question. And it is true that Zuckerman indeed did not critique the church. What he was indeed saying is that there is a decline in membership of these communities. But I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of the church. What makes the church is not community. It is the presence of God. Jesus said, where two or three are gathered together, I am there. And Paul writes in his letter to the Ephesians that this is what makes a church the church. It is the fullness of God that fills everything in everything.
Well, Zuckerberg claims that for decades, membership in all kinds of communities, including the church, has been declining. Do you agree with that?
This indeed is true. All the research shows and points towards this. But I think the reason that they are declining is quite an interesting one. I think it's precisely because we have not focused on the presence of God that binds these people together. When we simply build communities of interest, those communities cannot last. There's not enough there to keep the people together.
Well, for so many people, unfortunately, church has only been a social outlet and not a spiritual outlet. And that's a problem because church is both spiritual and social. So how can we get churches to grow again, to get more people to come back?
I think the most important thing is that we have to keep the most important thing, right? We have to focus on what brings the church together, what binds the church together, what gives the church ultimate meaning, and that meaning is the presence of God. And I think once we do that, all the other things will flow out of this.
Well, of course, Facebook and the internet can provide a great place for Christians to worship and hear the word.
Yes.
That's what we do here at CBN. So many people watch our programs and get our Christian information on the internet. So it is a great way to share the word with believers. But is it a replacement for the brick and mortar church where you get in your car and you drive there and you have that face-to-face interaction with other Christians?
I don't think it's and or. I think we need to simply bring these two together. And I welcome what Zuckerman says. And I think we as the churches should go to Mark and say, yes, we'll take hands with you. We can work together. We can indeed do this together.
Well, you touched on this a moment ago, but talk again a little bit more about why the church stands out from other community organizations.
So there's the visible church and the invisible church. And the invisible church is really what makes the church the church. It is the presence of God. It is where we worship Him in the beauty of holiness, where all meaning ultimately is communicated to the people. It's what gives us purpose.
And we do see that there are some churches that are bucking the system and really growing. And those churches, we would assume that the Holy Spirit is really is thriving and working. And that's what's drawing people and keeping people.
Exactly. All the research shows towards that.
All right. Well, Dr. Corne Bekker, thank you so much for joining us. Fascinating conversation.
Thank you.